What's so wrong with our president defending the American people? Here to discuss, former Navy SEAL Carl Higbie and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and President of the Washington Strategy Group, Joel Rubin. Nice to see both of you this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Good morning.
Carl, so you've heard the criticism there, not only from the left, but also some on the right, saying he seemed like he was kinder to Saudi Arabia and others than he was to our NATO allies. What do you say?
Well, I think this is something that Donald Trump campaigned on. It's like, look, we've been putting in with 3–4% of our GDP into this, and you have the bulk of the nations not paying their fair share. Why should we come to their defense? Why should we be the ones standing up and taking the world stage on this, and then just getting criticized for it? It's time for other people to pony up, and I support him on these statements.
Joel, what about these numbers? Let's dive into it. Is that a fair assessment? We'll put up a map here of the United States, Greece, United Kingdom, Estonia, Poland, paying 2% of their share in this GDP. And here's a map of the folks who are not paying. He mentioned the 23 nations, including Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands. So are those numbers fair when the president stood up there and scolded those 23 countries?
Hi, Clayton. Good morning. There are two ways to pay. There's blood and treasure, and certainly the president is right in calling for our NATO partners to pay more. They've committed to do so by 2024, and that's an important point that every administration calls for. But they've also paid in blood. More than 1,000 NATO troops, not Americans, Americans as well, but in addition to 1,000, have died in Afghanistan, and those NATO troops died as a result of coming to America's defense after 9/11. And we have to respect that, and we have to recognize that the way to get these countries to pay more is not to criticize them in public at the leadership level, but to go to their publics and say, you need to get your leaders to pay more. These are democracies, and we have to remember that if their public doesn't support it, it's not going to work. I don't think that message made that convincing argument.
Carl, what about that point that money is one thing, blood is another?
Well, I mean, we lost 4,000 troops in this war on terror, and we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting globally here. And you have all these people that want to say, oh, he called them out publicly. Darn right he called them out publicly, because you know what? We've been asking them in diplomatic channels to do this for years now, and they haven't done it. So I'm glad. He should be up there on the public stage calling these people out, so now the world can see this is what Trump campaigned on.
So Carl thought he was strong in calling out the world leaders on this pay issue.
Strong and correct.
Strong and correct. Joel, do you buy, though, that he was able to convince them to start paying more?
Now, if your goal is about getting them to pay more, this isn't going to do anything to advance that. In fact, it's going to make the publics in these countries more resistant to ponying up more money. It's not as if President Bush, who I served under as a career officer at the State Department in military affairs and Middle East affairs at the State Department again, it's not as if President Bush didn't call for this, nor President Obama. But the trick is to ensure that we're pulling them in and getting them to pay more. Right now, NATO is confused. NATO doesn't understand clearly if the United States is standing with them in Article 5 as they did with us after 9/11. And we need to make sure that we're showing them that we're with them.
Carl and Joel, have a great holiday weekend. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you
so much, guys.
Thank you.